Hi, I'm Chris Bowie-Hill, and welcome to Vision, our regular catch-up with guests to discuss their views and vision of the world, be it property, future communities, technology, or environment. So let's see where the conversation takes us. Today's guest is Rachel Bell, Director at Stride to Ground. Rachel has established herself as a role model for women in the construction industry, and this year is operating as National Chair of Women in Property. Rachel Bell, welcome to our Vision series. It's great to have you on board today, and we're very much looking forward to chatting with you. So, how are you?
Thanks, Chris. It's really good to be a guest on the Vision piece. I'm doing all right. I think everyone knows that I probably say yes too often, so I'm bouncing around lots of things. It's obviously a Monday today, which is always a busy start to the week. But yeah, on the whole, I'm doing okay.
And as we were having a little chat earlier, you said you had a bit of a mishap with a bag of chicken feed. So tell us a little bit more.
Yeah. Well, as most people know, I'm pretty active. I've been doing my daily walks during lockdown. I love my yoga. I've really got into Amy Williams' HIT sessions through COVID. And then, yes, stupidly, about 2 weeks ago, I thought, yeah, I can do this. And we had a bag of a huge sack of chicken food delivered. And I stupidly hurt my back by moving that. And so it's one of those things which really affects me in terms of if I'm not active, not outdoors, not getting fresh air. And so, yeah, that's been a difficult couple of weeks, really trying to stop myself. Almost taking too much work on because I can't do all my other things. And I just fall into a bit of a bad pattern. So, yeah, you'd see a different person today than you would have maybe a week ago. So.
Yeah, well, glad to hear you're on the mend. I mean, it's an interesting aspect, isn't it? The mental health piece that goes with actually, what we've experienced during lockdown, that the whole isolation piece. And, I guess some of us are perhaps more extroverted and need that contact. Some people are more introverted and felt like they didn't need so much contact. But even those I think that are a bit more introverted have realized actually what social animals we are, and even that small bit of interaction, what a difference it can make. So yeah, I guess that's the sort of social isolation, but it's also that being active, isn't it? And what it takes away from you.
Yeah, I've had quite a few comments from people because I think they see me as almost an extrovert and always out there speaking to people and out at events and very much, in touch with people. But to be honest, I've liked lockdown. I've quite enjoyed it. I think I needed that circuit breaker. I needed a chance to not necessarily slow down because it has been absolutely frantic, and back to back Zoom calls or Teams calls or virtual calls as everyone else has experienced. But it has been an opportunity to really make the most of where I live, make the most of the time that I actually have at home, and I've actually thrived on that. And so I think this is a point where I know everyone's having this discussion about what happens now, and do we make sure that we hold on to some of those good things that we've experienced through lockdown, some of those learnings that we can take from that, and what do we want to take forward, and what do we actually want to let go of?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And you did publish a great blog post recently on exactly this topic. So I'd be keen to explore that a little bit further. So in terms of BD habits, I guess, if we define them, what do you think we've really learned over the last, let's call it 18 months for argument's sake? What new habits have we formed, and what would you like to see continue moving forwards?
What we need to go forward with is a balance, because I think most of us do appreciate that we will speak to many people at these events that ordinarily you might not kind of pick up the phone to. And I've been very conscious, certainly over the last, 14 months or so, of trying to check in with those people that I would see at events, but I wouldn't necessarily put in a big meeting with. And I think it's those events which sometimes you just can't capture virtually, those chance meetings and those just occasional sort of right. I've seen so and so, and you pick up something, and that is just by the nature of meeting and passing conversation or overhearing something and getting involved. That just does not happen virtually. And I think this is where we need to set boundaries, and that will be down to individuals. I, for one, used to spend quite a few nights away from home, or late nights or early mornings. And that's where I think my boundaries will start to be redrawn, that I will start to question, what do I actually get from these? What value am I getting personally? Because I actually quite like where I live, and I don't want to be spending hours and hours traveling, and also thinking about how that has a knock on effect to the environment and our carbon footprint. There will be certain events that you do need to be in person. So I think, yeah, it's all up for debate, really.
Moving forwards, where are strides seeing the market going, and kind of in the shorter term and the longer term, what are the sort of hopes and aspirations? How do you think the world is going to develop, do you think?
We're very lucky in terms of a business because we have such a diverse workload and work stream across many sectors, if not all sectors. There are obviously where funding is strongest, and we see at the moment that public sector through schools, through healthcare, are particularly strong, and they are our largest sectors along with residential. But even that, with the build to rent models, with co-living, our student living sector is kind of merging and adapting. And then you've got things like logistics and industrial and the science and technology sectors, all kind of merging, but also still having their strengths, along with, say, like higher education, which has taken, quite a hit through COVID because of the closures of universities, but also, them taking a bit of a stock check on their estates and how they want to move forward. So at any one time, as a business, we're doing a bit of a temperature check on many sectors, but at the moment there are quite a few overlaps between each of those sectors, and we operate so that we have a expert lead on each of those sectors, and we regularly talk about actually delivering the work, but as well as winning the work, and designing the work. So it's kind of a regular kind of check-in. How are we doing? What do we need to adapt? Who else is coming into that market? How do we get some of that? But also, are we doing okay with the clients that we're already working with? And that's a big piece of work that I'm taking up at the moment, is about client feedback. How are we actually viewed in the marketplace? And using that to really inform how we operate as a business and how we are looking after our clients.
Yeah, it's certainly something that's been particularly helpful for us is our client listening program. Exactly that. It's that customer feedback. It's understanding what you did well, what they enjoyed, therefore what you should do more of. But taking that critical eye as well and saying, do you know what, we don't get it right every time. We've all got shortcomings, and how did that affect you, and how could we have done it better? How could we do it better next time? So it's an interesting journey. I suppose again, moving forwards, the sort of the trends that we have coming out post pandemic, I feel there's like a stronger need for more socially minded business. Again, I keep coming back to this word purpose. To exist just for the sake of turnover and profit, I'm not sure cuts it. And anymore, you need more relevance. You need more purpose. I did notice from one of your newsletters recently popped up. They drive towards net zero. Am I right in thinking that Strides is now a net zero business? Is that right?
Carbon neutral, but more emphasis at the moment on our B certification status, and that we are now a BCorp business, and that has been a long time coming. Takes about 6 months to certify, but that drives forward all of that you have just described. The balance between profit and people and our partnerships, which is becoming sort of that umbrella across our whole social value piece, our sustainability drive, just as a business, how we operate and how we treat all our staff, but also how we work with everyone and collaborate with partners. So it becomes a sort of sounding framework essentially to inform how we drive all of that forward.
Would you mind telling me a bit more about that B Corp certification process? Because we have looked into it, and it's tough. It is rigorous, and so it should be. But hats off and fair play to Strides for achieving that. Do you want to delve a little bit deeper into that and maybe give us a few snippets of what you've been up to and some of the policies you've had to put in place?
It felt like a very natural process, actually. Pierre Wassenaar sort of spotted it, really, having heard one of the leaders from Pucker Tea talking about the process. And it's an American initiative or process that has been set up, but there are now over 500 businesses in the UK that have certified. Even since we gained our certification in February, I think there's been another 50 businesses join that. So yeah, the process is quite lengthy. It's something that has to be repeated every 3 years. So as soon as you get it, you can't just sit still. It's something that you do need to kind of keep checking in on. There are about 5 different headings and then multiple different subsections to that. And they cover anything from your sort of partnerships and community that you work with, to your internal staffing, to environmental status, and there are many more. So there are lots and lots of criteria. I think there was like over 200 questions. We haven't had to kind of significantly change anything, and we thought we would just do a temperature check. We would see how we would do, and it came back pretty positive. So, and then Pierre's taken that 6-month journey in terms of actually working through the nitty gritty of it. And we then got a score, if I remember correctly, of about 101. And you need 80 essentially to become certified. So we scored, and that's pretty good. Most people, I would say, get 80 or just slightly above. So we feel pretty proud that we've managed to achieve that in just the business as it is and exists. And now we're looking at, right, some of those have highlighted a number of points where we think we were doing really well, and actually they've kind of said, well, maybe you could do better, or if you just slightly tweaked this, you could then. And it's not about the score, it's about obviously why we're doing it. But some of those points have raised questions on, well, actually, yeah, why aren't we doing that? And we've actually got a meeting this week to talk through those in detail, and actually create owners of each of those parts of the assessment, so that we can make sure that it's not falling to just Pierre, but the wider business. So our HR team, our social value team, our sustainability team, all of those are now buying into the process and keeping a review of it.
That's really good. It's great to hear that they're challenging you back, because it's such a key part of it, isn't it? You may well do really well in a section, but if it's about how much headroom there is there. If there's still stuff to go at, even though you've got a good score, if that's your strength, then just keep on pushing, I guess. Which I guess neatly takes us through to your position in women in property. So coming out of this pandemic, March this year, you took up the chair, is that right, of Women in Property? Big national role, fantastic. So can you give us a little sneak preview of what this year has in store under the stewardship of Rachel Bell?
Absolutely, yeah. What a time to do it. And I think it may be a year of two halves, to be honest. We're 3 months in now, and it's been exciting. It's been a challenge. It's a test to do that type of role alongside what is quite a demanding day job as well. And all of this, every single member is a voluntary role. So we need to remember that people are doing this in their so-called spare time. But it's a fantastic organisation. It's not just purely about networking. This is an organisation that is trying to drive change and input into government initiatives, so they feed into the all-party parliamentary group for women in work. There are things like that which need to become more visible, but hopefully we can start inputting into those elements which will drive change. So yeah, I've taken this step up into the national role for what was, very, very prominent sort of Southwest role, where I've been a member since 2006. And took up the Southwest chair role in 2017 and loved that. So this was kind of taking it to the next level. In terms of the year, I hope that I am just helping people to understand what women in property is about, get from it what I have got from it in terms of a wonderful support network, where I have absolutely fantastic friends now who, when you're having a bit of a wobble, or you just need some help, or even if it's some information that you think someone else must know, there is those people that you can kind of turn to and say, "Help, am I doing all right?" Or which I've had recently. Some really great contacts that I have met and grown up through Women in Property essentially to this point, and they are the people that they know who they are if they're listening to this, that I can call on, and I'm hoping that can then help support all of the branches. So Women in Property has a network of branches across the UK. So I am supporting each of those branches, who are then putting on events. They're supporting students at university through the student awards. They're supporting each other through mentoring. There are many, many facets to Women in Property. And so, yeah, I absolutely love just being able to help, support, mentor, be someone that people can hopefully look up to and think, yeah, I want to do that one day. I never thought I would do this, and here I am doing it. So my hashtag of stand tall is still very, very much how I kind of talk about leading the way, which at 4'11", I never thought I would be doing, and I still get really nervous about being, on stage or doing things like this. But it's saying, right, I can do it, so you can do it too, and I hope people will take a lot from that, and people know where they can find me if they ever want to come and say, "How did you do it?" Because I don't think I've ever really been taught. I've just kind of jumped out and said yes to too many things, and then suddenly thought, what am I doing? So why am I doing this? And just kind of crack on and get on with it. So, but yeah, I absolutely love what I do, and Women in Property is a massive part of that. So
Oh, well done. Congratulations. We're absolutely very an admirable position, and I'm sure, as I say, under your stewardship, you'll do a fantastic job. You picked me to the post on the stand tall piece. Do you want to tell us a bit more about stand tall and what that means to you?
it became a bit of a joke, and I will name this person. So Jo Williams, she will know. She has always made fun of my height, and we were kind of looking at what my message for my chair year, during the Southwest regional chair year, would be, and it became sort of the natural topic of standing tall, and taking that every moment and stepping outside of your comfort zone. And yeah, so that kind of rang true, and it really did sort of lead the way during that year, and it's kind of then stuck with me, but in a good way. And people do really sort of, I suppose it means something, in terms of just taking that step. And yeah, everyone can do that. So yeah, very simply, and maybe slightly crudely, that's kind of it. That I'm 4'11", so I'm not tall, but I try and stand tall.
Yeah, it's about backing yourself, isn't it? As you rightly said, put your mind to it. You can do it. You don't have to be tall in stature. You don't have to be a big personality. I've seen some incredible things achieved by introverts who are focused. Yeah, or like Greta Thunberg. I mean, look at her. I mean, she's not a big, tall, extroverted character, and she's changing the world. It's absolutely incredible. So yeah, there we go. There's another stand tall member. Do you think the role of those white middle class men are is overlooked in the industry in terms of how they can be allies in mentoring women and bringing them through? I appreciate they're kind of a very different type of role model, but what are your thoughts on that?
No, absolutely, and I think there are many, many fantastic male role models and male allies in the industry. So it's not just pinning everything on a women's issue or an issue about race, etc. This is about all of us joining together and helping one another, and certainly ensuring that they feel supported, and actually useful, and that people do want to hear what their experiences are.
And perhaps you've just answered that question for me, but in terms of if you were to offer some advice to me, to Chris Bowie Hill, in terms of how I can help women into the industry, what would your advice be to me? How can I help in a positive, meaningful, productive way?
I think about even other females that you know, and younger females that you may even have friends, children. Just talking about what you do day in, day out, or what you see in the industry. So even if you aren't sort of still on the tools, or doing specific project work, then but just talk about why you got into the industry. I do feel sometimes when I'm talking about being an architect, when was the last time I actually drew anything? But the passion that I have for the industry and why I'm doing what I'm doing now fundamentally hasn't changed. I still love looking at buildings and understanding how they're put together. And so, I've gone through the training. I understand, how it is to be an architect, but just talking about why I started to do that, and my love of drawing, and experiencing sort of different places, and how that actually makes people feel. So I think, yeah, I would just get out there, talk about what you do, and ensure that, yeah, younger people, and whether that's boys and girls, the gender stereotyping starts from like 5 to 7 year olds. So get out there and talk to them, about what it is to be an engineer, an architect, an electrician, whatever it may be. Again, just to help them to visualize what those jobs are about.
Yeah, no, I think that's some excellent advice. So, taking a bit of a turn in terms of the questioning, here's a challenging question for you. Do you have a favorite failure? And how do you think this might have impacted your thinking and how you work?
A favourite failure? Crikey. Oh, that's a bit of a tricky one. I I always think I failed in a way because I am not doing project work. And I always feel as though, and this is maybe something which is quite stereotypical. I always think people are thinking of me in that way, in terms of, well, she says she's an architect but she's not doing project work, so that's no good. So that's a really hard, tricky one for me mentally, because I'm not doing what I suppose I'm trained to do. But I've actually found something that I absolutely love. And actually, yeah, so what? I think I describe, at many of the careers events that I do, that a career can be a bit like a scramble net. And you might go up in one direction, but actually I've taken a bit of a left or right turn, and I'm scrambling across in a different direction. And it's all good. I think you've just got to find something that you absolutely love doing. And that was architecture. I used to be a Revit champion. I used to love kind of actually, I was beta testing Revit when it was first coming out. And I love that. But my life changed, and I've changed in different directions. And I think having flexibility to be able to do that, and I'm really grateful that actually I've been able to do that within Stride Triglawn, and that's enabled me to adapt and change. And I do see that with many other people coming up through the business, that there is that struggle between sort of the very strict linear route of architecture, and you'll have it with engineering as well. And there is that kind of career progression. I think architects generally are very, perfectionists and want to kind of deliver. But actually sometimes some things take you in a different route, and that's okay. And that's what I keep on telling myself. It's okay. And, in a couple of years' time, well, who knows? That's primarily why I changed to work between lots of sectors. I've kind of worked in defence and aviation and education, but each time there was a particular route and reason, and I've enjoyed the change and the challenge each time.
Yeah, no, it's a solid response. It's going to challenge you a little bit more in the therapy style. Do you feel you're at peace with that now? Because it is tricky, isn't it? When you've come from a technical discipline, it's something I battle with quite a lot. And the pressure, the trying to understand the pressure that I feel and where it's coming from. Is it all of my own making, or is it a real pressure? So, kind of coming back to that question, do you think you're at peace with your new career direction?
No, no, I still have wobbles. And as I alluded to, I've had a wobble recently, and I'm thinking, what am I doing? Because I've had no formal training in being a business development person, and I have wobbles. I suddenly think, what am I doing? Whereas I'm out of date now in terms of architectural standards and building regulations and things, but I at least knew that there was a structure behind that, and there is kind of a right and wrong answer. Whereas what I'm doing, you can kind of do it your own way. And actually, the conversation that I had with someone who put me back on the right road, they said, you do something that actually many other people don't do, and you've created your role to suit what you're good at. And so I took a lot of comfort in that for that moment in time, because again, I might have another wobble, but yeah, I have created a different path for myself. And as I say, I'm really grateful that I've been able to do that. And I'm now looking out to make sure that others who maybe have that sort of certain direction and ability to really pick up something that's quite exciting. And we're seeing that in loads and loads of different ways in the industry now, that it doesn't necessarily have to follow a true sort of linear path.
Well, for what it's worth, you know this already. You're a nationally eminent character within your industry. You're leading the BD charge for one of the largest architectural and most prestigious architectural practices in the country. I think you're doing okay. I think you're doing okay.
Thank you. I really appreciate that, because yeah, it is difficult. And I think maybe because in these type of roles, and I was having this discussion the other day, in these type of roles, you are suddenly out there. You are putting yourself into quite vulnerable situations, and on LinkedIn or social media, you can be sort of called into question, and that is a good thing. People do sort of put you to to actually sort of action what you're talking about, but it does cause quite a lot of, oh, maybe I've said something wrong, or am I doing the right things? And yeah, am I helping everyone, or not helping everyone, but am I doing enough for certain people? And sometimes you forget about yourself. You kind of forget about actually look after yourself, and that's what I do. I do try and come back to maybe the starting point of going for walks in mornings, my yoga, a lot about the culture in this industry, about long hours, and kind of just try and lead by example, that actually remember time for yourself and ensure that you're doing things to keep yourself fulfilled as well.
So, Rachel, thank you so much for your time today. An excellent interview. Very honest, very open, very authentic. Thank you, and we wish you well. Good luck this year as role chair of national chair of Women in Property.
Thank you very much, Chris.
Is it as loud here as it is here? No, 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 no. All right, okay.